4,000 hectares, 2 tractors, 200 hectares a day. It's a race against time to get the crop in, and there's a battle against weeds and weather. Can Greg and Andy get it done? What's the future of no-till cropping look like? Can growers beat herbicide resistance? Strap in, get a cuppa. Let's find out. It's sowing time of year here around Maureen. I'm with Andy Thompson. You're putting in some barley today, mate?
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about the equipment that you're on.
We got the old 9400 John Deere.
Yep.
Which is about a 96 model.
Doing all right?
Yeah, and then the 60-foot flexi coil on, 45 kilos a hectare.
And the variety?
Maximus barley.
How many hectares are you getting done in a day?
Maybe around 200. Well, this is all the GPS here, so keeps you in the nice straight lines, and then this is all our the meters. So you got the fertilizer and the barley, all the sowing rate. There we go. We're just doing the headland here at the moment, so this is where we all turn around, and then once we get back down here a bit further, we'll jump on the GPS track.
And how long's your average day, mate?
Oh, about 12 hours, yeah, so about 7 till 7. Harvest time's usually a little bit bigger, about 15 hours, but we don't like to go too long into the night here just because all the trees and stuff, it's a bit hard to see to get around some of them sometimes. So, but yeah, it definitely gets over the ground a bit. And then we have the second plant going as well, so each lap we're getting over about 120 foot. We've done a week so far of wheat, but then the rain knocked us off, so now we've only just started back with the barley. So let's say another week of barley, and then we'll go back to a later variety of wheat. Probably about another 3 weeks at least all up. I like this setup. This setup's very good. So, and the air cart behind us, they're a really good air cart, the Simplicity ones. You don't seem to have many problems with it. So,
and there we go, hands free.
Very good. Speed her up a little bit. About 10.5, and then yeah, you just sit back and watch for trees pretty much. So yeah, on these sort of smaller blocks, yeah, 60 foot's enough around here. So yeah, and it's pretty easy to get around the trees. We've got to do a lap of them just to make sure there's not, when the crop starts growing, you don't want all weeds around it. Sort of if you have a bare patch, a lot of weeds will grow up through it. So yeah, we try to crop as much as we can all the way to the fences and right up around the trees. So yeah, Andy Coulson here, feeding the country on the Farm Learning Channel.
Greg, how are you, mate?
Really good, Tim. Good to meet you.
Now tell me a little bit about your family's history in cropping in this area. You started out with very small means.
Yeah, Dad and his partner started after they left school, and they started with 25 acres each, and they built themselves up to 4,000 hectares today. Pretty good achievement.
Now you've been leading the way also in no-till cropping, and you've got a couple of observations about no-till cropping and the business of no-till cropping that's developed from that.
No-till cropping has allowed people to farm more land, more land, and probably farm it easier in some ways, but some of the weed resistant problems we have now are causing all kinds of problems.
Now let's have a little bit of a chat about farming more land and making it easier to farm more land. Greg, you were telling me a story off camera before when the local school bus used to go up the road when you went to school.
Yes.
It was standing room only.
It's standing room only, 48-seater bus. Now I think we have 2 kids in the bus.
So that's gone from having lots of smaller farms in this area, supporting lots and lots of families, and obviously the flow on of that into the local community.
Yes.
So now a big consolidated farming family.
Yes, that's what's happened, and no tilling's allowed for that, a lot of that to happen. one particular family up the road had like 6 big families there working on the farm and probably not doing much more than what we are now. And yeah, so that sort of changed things dramatically, you know, in the scope of the town and you know, the area and stuff. So that's what happens.
One of the things that you have noticed is that with the cracking black clays, it's been really good for the soil to do no-till cropping.
Yes, yes.
What have you noticed in terms of the soil performance in the cracking black clays, Greg?
Well, it can get moisture into it by leaving the stubble there in some ways, but other ways you've got soil disease-borne stubble-related problems by keeping the stubble there.
And you've got some volunteer plants coming up as well?
Well, weed pressure's a problem because, say, black oats, because you don't work your ground anymore, it's sort of, the black oats don't come, and then when you work it they do, and the weed problems we've got at the moment are surface weeds like fleabane, feathertop rhodes grass, barnyard grass, and it's all on the surface of the soil, and the soil's not being turned anymore to cover those weeds up.
What has been the impact of no-till farming on the sandier soils in terms of water penetration?
Well, the water's not going into it like it used to in some regards, but it stopped a lot of the wind erosion. We have a lot of wind erosion.
So overall, no-till has been really good for the soil?
Yes, yeah.
Now, you've been talking a little bit about weeds there. Cost of input is a big thing when you're farming the land.
Yeah.
And you've noticed, particularly with herbicides, your use of herbicides and the effective rate is going up year on year.
Yeah,
Can you tell me a little bit about the history of your use of Roundup on the paddock?
Late 70s, where Dad and them were working out litres per hectare and gallons per acre and that there, and it was 130 mils of Roundup per hectare they were targeting for, and it killed everything in them days, and now we're up to like 3 litres and not having much success with that.
So at the beginning of using Roundup, it was 130 mils a hectare would kill everything?
Yes.
And now you're using 3 litres a hectare?
3 litres a hectare.
And you reckon there's some plants surviving this?
Oh yes, yeah. The milk thistle, sprayed with a camera sprayer and other sprayers, shoots and grows from the base again. Starting to grow again. Have a look at this one here. This is another one that's you know, it's burnt it off, and it's growing from the base again.
And that's with increased rates of chemical and different chemicals?
Increased rates and changing chemicals around and stuff. I think the actual like chemicals and stuff now, I think it's just actually got them beat now with the milk thistle, the fleabanes, the feathertop rhodes grass, barnyard millets and that there. That's just created a whole new problem for chemical companies and farmers.
One of the ways that we can get around this surely is by adding technology to the problem. There are camera sprayers now. Now you've been playing around with those where you can deliver higher concentration but in small areas with the camera sprayer.
Yes.
What's been your experience so far with the camera sprayers?
A lot of the weeds we've had here are shooting from the base and growing again, just burning off the tops with large amounts of chemical. And I have heard of other people putting too much chemical on and having bare spots in their paddocks, and so it's probably a tool that you'd have to really watch what you're doing with.
So you're getting close to the point where you're using so much concentrated chemical in a small area that you could end up with persistence in the paddock that stops your crop from growing.
Yes, that can happen if you use the wrong chemicals, but we're limited on what we can really use too through them because of the summer here with the cotton and stuff around, and we're just limited to like paraquat and Roundup.
And you've got some new chemistry coming onto the market, but that comes obviously with an increased input cost as well, doesn't it?
Yes, it all adds up over a period of time. The phalaris is a big winter problem here we've got now, and they're having a real hard time controlling it in crop now. Some of these new sprays for phalaris, they're talking like there could be $60 a hectare that they're trialling up at our other place at the moment.
So that's going to put increased pressure on you to grow more tonnage per hectare just to pay for the chemicals that you use to grow the crop.
That's what they're sort of happening, but
it's a vicious circle, isn't it?
It's a vicious circle. It doesn't stop.
So how are you going to? What are your plans to shortcut that vicious circle? Are there some things that you're going to be doing in the future to try and get on top of this problem in other ways?
We probably should be rotating more more out to different crops than what we probably do.
Right.
That's one way about it. But I just think that these like surface seeds now, like fleabane, milk thistle, feathertop, and there's everybody's problem because the wind's carrying them around.
Yep.
And just because you might be doing the right thing, somebody a few farms over might be getting our seeds or whatever happens, and so it's a real problem.
So very few ubiquitous chemicals being used by everyone all the time, building resistant populations of weeds. They're travelling. Sounds to me like you're headed back towards cultivation.
Well, I reckon in some areas we probably will have to do that down the track. The problem with that is that a lot of our good Australian farm machinery manufacturers have stopped producing machinery now because it's not something that anyone buys anymore. So we've lost a lot of good machinery manufacturers to make machinery, so we're limited to some imported stuff that doesn't work real well in our country. You know, some of these big offset discs and stuff now, you know, they're a few $100,000 to buy them, and the cost of getting into the machinery and stuff is another thing. But we're a bit fortunate here in a way because we kept all our old tillage gear, and some of it's getting a bit sad now. But but it's something that we've had to dig out at times to try and do something with these weeds.
What's your thoughts on regenerative ag practices and maybe grazing after cropping and things like that? Do you think that that's a way that you might have a look at in the future?
No, it wouldn't be for us because we got rid of all our fences and stuff, and we're not maintaining what fences are there. So the cost of getting into crash grazing or changing things around like that just probably wouldn't be viable for us. We got out of the cattle in 76. They were 3 cents a pound or 8 cents a kilogram, and they got rid of the whole lot in one go, and that was the end of the cattle. And anyway,
and once you got out of something, it's hard to reinvest and get back in.
I mean, all the windmills fall down, and the watering points go, and that. Some of our neighbours have got sheep and that there, and they're doing quite well rotating around with the sheep, and maybe that's something that people might have to do down the track. But probably getting back into the sheep and cattle would probably be something that wouldn't happen for us.
Well, Greg, I wish you all the best with it, mate. I hope you find a balance between tillage and chemical spraying, and I hope that you continue to grow wonderful food for the country, mate. Thank you very much for your time.
Great. No problem.